I am now a working woman. What's up, guys? I know it's been a while. I even got a haircut since we last talked. But since I was staffed on my very first ever consulting project, I haven't really had the time to film and edit a full video. Not that the work has been terribly overwhelming per se, but we'll get into it. Either way, in between meetings today, when I was pretty much finished up with the work that I had to do, I wrote the outline to this video. Hi guys, my name is Taylor Bell if you are new here, and I am a New York City-based management consultant currently working from home in Los Angeles, California. Who somehow manages to forget to ask you guys kindly to hit the like button every single time. Thanks. Today I'm going to give you guys a little New York City update, and spoiler alert, it's a good, fun update. Then we'll talk about some of the fun details of my very first project, and what kind of company I'm consulting for, and just sort of the work that I'm doing, what my hours have been like, etc. And then I want to tell you guys a little bit more about how a consulting project actually works, and sort of how it's structured, in a fun and succinct way, of course. Basically answering the question of how can a 23-year-old recent college grad be a consultant for big Fortune 500 companies? Now I know that topic sounds little bland, but there appears to be a big misconception about consulting, at least based off the comments that I got on my first consulting video, which by the way has over 70,000 views. But I'm gonna respond to that big misconception, so stay tuned for that. So, quick New York City update. I found my apartment. My roommate and I searched tirelessly for a little over a week, which I know doesn't sound like a long time, but let me tell you, virtual apartment hunting is stressful. More so than I anticipated. But we finally got one, very exciting, and I will be moving on August 1st, give or take a couple days. Of course, apartment tour to come when I actually move, but sneak peek little detail, my bedroom has floor-to-ceiling windows, and sunlight is so important to me, especially on the East Coast when it's cold, and I literally don't think I could have found a better place within my budget. So, like I said, apartment tour to come when I move with the prices and all that good stuff, but that's my update. Very exciting. All right, now let's jump into details of my very first project. Obviously, keeping confidentiality in mind, I can't tell you super specific stuff, but yeah. I am 2.5 weeks into my first project, and before I started that, I had 3 weeks of training on the job, so I've been at the job for like a month and a half almost now. But the project that I'm on, I am consulting for a large global e-commerce company. Specifically, I'm working on some M&A, mergers and acquisitions analysis, and helping them define what their payment strategy should look like over the next couple of years. That doesn't mean I'm on the project for the next couple of years. I just mean the payment strategy. It's been awesome overall so far. I'm learning a lot, which is super cool. I was actually quite familiar with this company before I started, so it's super cool to get a closer kind of insider look on things. The people that I'm working with are super nice and helpful so far. One of the partners actually shows her dog on camera all the time, and I am living for that. I live for any dog content. You guys know that. The culture of my team is great. I would say that most of the time things are, well, I wouldn't say laid back, because obviously there's work to get done, but everyone is super chill overall. I would be happy to go grab a beer with any one of them, which is a good sign, and that's how you know it's Taylor approved. So the hours, this is another thing I get questions about a lot. The hours have really varied. So my project has people on both the West Coast and East Coast, so the meetings that we have and the overall schedule has to obviously accommodate both sides. With that, my day starts at 7:30 a.m. pretty much every single day, which, you know, is quite early for me. It could be worse, but I've discussed on my channel a little bit that I am a night owl to the point that my body would probably go to bed around 2, 3 a.m. every single night if it had the option. So the early morning is a little bit of an adjustment, but nothing that I can't handle. And then the end time when I finish my day has varied for sure. Last week we had a few sprints, meaning there were some time sensitive, high priority things going on. So on those days I finished work right around 10 or 11 p.m. So, you know, that's a 14.5 or 15.5 hour workday. And it sounds like a lot because it is a lot, but at the same time, it's not like I had my head down working all 15 of those hours. And working from home is interesting in that way, because if it were in person, I would have been in the office for all 15 of those hours. But at home, if I have 15 to 20 minutes off here and there, I can make myself a snack, I can pet my dogs. In fact, I literally call the breaks where I pet my dogs Willy breaks. This is Willy. You guys have met him before. He's getting big. I can talk to my boyfriend, I can talk to my family. It's all good. I have those little 10, 15, 20, 30-minute breaks here and there, and I can choose to do whatever I want with them. Versus, like I said, in the office, even if you have a break, you're still stuck in the office. So while 15 hours sounds daunting, I have my own little built-in breaks just by virtue of working from home. So yeah, those 2 days specifically were definitely on the longer side. Other days I've finished at 6:30 p.m., which is super chill, so it's varied so far. So now, to speak a little to the structure and the workflow of a consulting project, and mine specifically, and this is what's going to answer that question/misconception that I get a lot. So basically, consulting projects are structured as a team. It is a team of consultants working together. Of course, this is going to vary project by project, but my specific project is structured as follows. There's me, so the lowest mid-level, entry-level. Another person in my same position, he only started a couple months before I did. One person in the position directly above us, another person in the level directly above him, and then there is a manager, and then there's 2 partners at the top. Like I said, this structure will vary, or not the structure, but the amount of people, at least, might vary project to project, meaning some will be a lot more slim, fewer people, and some projects might require a lot more people, especially entry-level consultants such as myself. So, beginning at the top with the partners. These people are experts in the field that they're consulting in. For example, payments, which is what my project kind of revolves around. The main partners either worked at a payments firm for years and years before joining the consulting firm, or they just worked in that line of consulting in that industry for so long that they have become an expert over the years. These partners a lot of the time actually have existing relationships with the client because maybe they worked with that client beforehand at some point, or because they've just been in this specific industry for so long that they've kind of naturally formed those relationships. And just to be very clear with the terminology, when I say client, that is the company that we are consulting for.
I may have heard from an old client, and I may have immediately started spreading the news to other clients and potential clients, yeah.
So the partners will talk with the client and really define the scope of the project that we're working on. In other words, they're going to be the ones to define what the problem actually is, the problem that we're trying to solve for this company. For example, is it maybe an internal organizational change that we could help them manage? Is it optimizing a certain flight path for an airline? As you can tell, it could be really an infinite amount of things, but what I'm trying to get at is that it is the partners that define the scope of the project. Quiz, who defines the scope? The partners do. Then it really trickles down from there. The next level is going to be your principals, and then after that, you're going to have your project managers and project leaders, and they really drive the project. So they also have really great experience, and they are able to delegate tasks and also give really great feedback on how things are looking. So after the project leaders and managers, you're going to have your associates, your senior consultants, your consultants. The specific job titles, of course, going to vary depending on what firm you're at. But those people in the middle, like the ones in between the project managers and kind of the entry-level positions, they are sort of in this weird middle ground where they have enough experience to delegate tasks down to the entry-level little guys, but they also do a lot of work themselves. So what big question does this answer, Taylor? Well, it seems to be a big misconception about consulting. Again, based at least off the comments that I got on that first consulting video, that fresh out of undergrad consultants like myself are the ones sitting down with Fortune 500 company CEOs and telling them what to do. I get some respectful comments of people who are just curious and they're like, oh, that's interesting. You just graduated college and don't have experience in that industry. How can you actually really consult for these companies? And then others ask in a little bit different way. But alas, bottom line is that it is a valid question. Maybe it's because I recruited for consulting jobs, like I interviewed for them, so I had to understand how the business works. But I didn't realize that that was a misconception, and if I did realize it, I would have addressed it in my first consulting video. But I have already sort of answered it. So as you can see, based off the kind of structure and the workflow of a project, I'm not the one making the decisions. Like I said, the partners define the scope of the project, and then it goes from there. Any work that I do, any research I conduct, any hypotheses that I have, that has to go up the ladder, then back down, then back up again, and a couple more times. It has to iterate before any work that I do actually lands on the lap of a CEO of one of these big companies. That being said, a consulting firm will not hire you if you don't have some business sense. This is a big criteria that consulting firms look at during your interview. In other words, are you able to demonstrate that you have some high-level understanding of how businesses work? For example, knowing how marketing and optics are important. Do you understand the basic levers that affect profitability within different industries? Stuff like that, which, by the way, I would argue to some degree comes innately, just having that kind of business sense. But a lot of it is also just teachable. I mean, you could study it, you probably will be studying it for your interviews anyway. So don't think it's something you can't learn if you don't think you have a naturally business-oriented mind. But you have to show that you have this business sense during your interview. So it is still a very selective job. And at work, even though I'm only 2.5 weeks into my first project, I'm not only encouraged, but expected to be hypothesis-driven. So what does that actually mean? That's a term that consultants throw around a lot. What it means is that if I am tasked, let's say, with researching some companies or researching some payment strategies that e-commerce competitors use, I'm supposed to have my own opinion about it. For example, why do I think that this specific company is a good one for our client to potentially acquire or partner with? And why do I think these companies on this hand might not look like quite as great of a match? Even if my gut feeling or the hypothesis that I have is totally wrong, consultants are very much supposed to be hypothesis driven in that way. On the other hand, and I feel like I've said on the other hand, however, on the flip side of that so many times, but on the other hand, even though I'm not really the one driving these decisions, I will still say I'm only a few degrees away from the, oh my god, a coyote.
Hey.
cute. I will still say that I'm only a few degrees away from the CEO of this major e-commerce company and the head of payments at that company, which is super cool and does help make my work feel impactful. So anyway, that team structure should help explain why I, 23-year-old Taylor who graduated from undergrad university 1 year ago, am not the one telling Fortune 500 companies what they should do. What I actually do is help support the process of what the partners and the managers think is a good direction to go in. And you know, as time goes on and I get promoted, hopefully, I will also be rising in the ranks and helping make these decisions. That being said, the half-life of a consultant is like 2 years before they go and decide to work elsewhere, which is totally normal, by the way, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, you guys, that is my New York City life update, my very first project update, and the overall structure of a consulting project. If you guys have any other consulting questions, I would be happy to answer them in my future videos. But until next time, and it won't be as long this time, Taylor out. It's freaking hot. I'm gonna leave the window open. It's really hot.